On the outskirts of a quiet Iowa town, Ethan W. Walker, a 67-year-old farmer, sat behind his wooden stall at the farmer's market. His hands, rough from decades of labor, trembled as he counted the few dollars he had made that morning. His farm, once thriving, now struggled against large supermarket chains that sold imported goods at lower prices. Hoppers passed BBY, glancing at his fresh vegetable cess but opting for pre-packaged alternative elsewhere. Then sighed, his heart heavy. The land his father had once tilled now seemed like a burden. If couldn't sell his crops soon, he would lose everything. He had sacrificed so much, but it seemed like his hard work was no longer enough. That same afternoon, a convoy of black SUVs rolled through the town. People murmured, surprised at the unusual visit. Inside of the cars sat President Donald Trump on his way to a rally in the Midwest. His car slowed at an intersection. Rump glanced out the window and noticed Ethan sitting behind a full stall of unsold produce. The farmer's defeated posture struck a chord. D.W. Who's that? Trump asked his A local farmer. Sir. It seems like he's struggling to sell his crops. Rump's expression hardened. Pulling in Gover, his security team hesitated but obeyed. Within seconds, the President of the United States stepped out, walking straight toward Ethan's stall. Ethan barely looked up as someone approached his stall. He had seen too many people walk by without buying, but then he heard a deep, familiar voice. How's business, sir? Ethan lifted his gaze and froze. Standing in front of him was none other than Donald T. Trump. People around the market gasped, pulling out their phones. Secret Service agents scanned the crowd, ensuring the president's safety. Then wiped his hands on his overalls, still in shock. And not great. President. People prefer buying from big stores. I can't compete. Rump picked up a bright red tomato, inspecting it. Looks good to madame. If I bought everything you've got today? Ethan's eyes widened. Why you serious? Rump smirked more than seriously. But I've got a bigger idea. Then wasn't sure if Trump was joking. I appreciate the gesture, sir, but buying everything won't fix the real problem. Rump nodded. Why you're right, but what if I show America what they're missing? Then frowned. How do you mean? Rump turned to his aide. Get me team on this. Waned cameras rolling. People need to hear this man's story within minutes. Rump's media crew arrived. A microphone was clipped onto Ethan's collar. Ephemer, overwhelmed, shifted nervously. Rump put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Relax, just tell the truth. Then took a deep breath. I'm a small farmer. I don't want handouts. I just want a fair chance. Rump nodded. That's exactly what we're going to give you. As cameras rolled, Rump spoke directly to the American people. I'm here with Ethan, a hard-working farmer being pushed out by corporations. His produces fresh, natural, and 100% American, but people aren't buying because they're used to big supermarket chains. Then watched surprised as Trump grabbed a handful of tomatoes. Why, you know what? I'll buy all of this, and I want everyone watching to support their local farmers. These people work harder than anyone. Within minutes, Rump's social media team uploaded the video. The message spread like wildfire with millions of views in hours. Ethan had no idea that his life was about to change forever. Then returned home still shaken by the encounter. He had no idea if anything would actually change until his phone started ringing. His grandson Luke, a college student, called first. Grandpa, you're trending. People are talking about your farm all over the country. Then came the flood of calls. Order started pouring in. People from across America wanted to buy Ethan's fresh produce. The farm's website, which had barely seen any visitors, suddenly crashed from the surge of traffic. Made Ethan's heart pound. He had spent years watching his farm decline, but in just one afternoon everything was different. His crops were no longer being ignored. They were in demand. The next morning, Ethan stepped onto his farm and saw something he never expected. A line of cars parked outside. Locals inspired by the viral video had come to support him. Families, chefs, and even restaurants wanted his produce. His neighbors, once skeptical, now looked at him differently. Why might have just started something big, Ethan, one of them, said that evening. His grandson Luke returned home. Grandpa Teeth's isn't just about you anymore. Other farmers need help too. Ethan nodded, then we helped them. H. picked up his phone and made a life-changing decision, then called nearby farmers, some of whom had been struggling just like him. Listen, if we work together, we can create a farmers' cooperative. Many hesitated, but Trump's continued support kept the momentum going. H. even personally called Ethan, "Dude just sell, expand. Make this bigger than one farm." Then took the advice to heart. Within weeks, Heartland Harvest was formed, a cooperative where small farmers pulled resources to sell directly to customers. For the first time in years, farmers were making money. Ethan looked out at his farm, now full of workers again, and realized he wasn't just saving his own land, he was saving a way of life. Ethan stood in awe as the cooperative Heartland Harvest started taking shape. Farmers who had once been competitors were now working together. They shared transportation costs, set fair prices, and even helped each other with labor. For the first time in years, Ethan felt hope. His grandson Luke set up an online ordering system allowing people to buy fresh, locally grown produce directly from their phones. Their response was overwhelming. Meanwhile, Trump's message about supporting small farmers continued to spread. Amorna's outlets picked up the story, and people across the country were inspired. Han never imagined that a simple conversation at a farmers market could spark something this big, but as Heartland Harvest grew, so did the challenges. Not everyone was happy about it. Then received a call from a supermarket executive. "Mr. W. Walker, we see what you're doing. You're making waves, but let's be real, you can't compete with our distribution." Then gritted his teeth. "I'm not trying to compete, I'm just trying to keep farmers like me in business." The executive chuckled. "Farmers don't control the market anymore. Wedo." Ethan realized this was bigger than just selling vegetables. It was about fairness. Supermarkets had been pushing small farms out for years, but now with Trump's support and millions watching, things were changing that night. Ethan sat with Luke. "If they think we'll back down, they don't know us." Luke smiled. "Then let's show them what real farmers can do." Ethan gathered the local farmers for a meeting in his barn. "They think we can't survive without them," he said, his voice strong, "but we have something they don't: the trust of the people." The farmers nodded. Heartland Harvest had grown fast, and customers loved knowing exactly where food came from, but supermarkets were slashing prices to crush their competition. Luke spoke up. "We need to adapt. What if we offer doorstep delivery?" The idea sparked excitement. They could cut out the middleman entirely. That evening, Ethan called Trump's team. "Sir, we need help with logistics." Trump's response was quick. "Consider it done." Within, Heartland Harvest had delivery trucks, a stronger online platform, and nationwide attention. The fight wasn't over, but they were ready as Heartland Harvest thrived. Ethan received an anonymous letter. A warning: "Back down, old man. You're disrupting the system. This won't end well for you." Ethan clenched his fists. He had expected pushback, but this felt personal. Were the supermarket giants feeling threatened? Luke dug deeper and found something shocking. Big corporations were funding smear campaigns, spreading false rumors that small farms couldn't meet safety standards. Ethan knew they had to fight back with truth. "We'll show the world exactly how we grow our food," he declared. Luke set up live farm tours, streaming daily videos of their process. Customers saw the care and effort behind every crop. Trust in Heartland Harvest soared, but the corporations weren't done yet. Their next move was even worse. One morning, government inspectors arrived at Ethan's farm, looking too eager to find a problem. "Routine check," the lead inspector said, but Ethan wasn't convinced. The timing was too perfect. Right when Heartland Harvest was booming, they searched every corner of the farm, testing soil, water, and storage facilities. Hours passed. The other farmers watched nervously, fearing they would be shut down over a technicality. Finally, the inspector sighed. "Everything's in order. No violations." Ethan smirked. "Of course. There aren't any. We take pride in what we do." That night he received another call from Trump himself. "They're trying to scare you. Don't let them." Ethan's resolve hardened. He wasn't backing down. The smear campaigns continued, but something unexpected happened. The American people fought back. Customers started boycotting big supermarkets, choosing Heartland Harvest instead. Social media influencers, chefs, and even celebrities praised the movement. One viral post read, "I'd rather buy from farmers I can trust than corporations that only care about profits. Support Heartland Harvest." Ethan watched in awe as orders skyrocketed. Trump invited him to Washington for a televised discussion on fair competition for small farmers. The movement had become bigger than him. It was national, but one last battle remained. Supermarkets made their boldest move yet. A lawsuit claiming Heartland Harvest was operating as an unregulated monopoly. Ethan slammed the papers on the table. "They're calling us a monopoly that's rich." Trump's legal team stepped in. "This lawsuit is weak. They just want to drain your resources with legal fees." Ethan's heart sank. Fighting in court could bankrupt them, but then something incredible happened. People started donating. A crowdfunding campaign raised millions overnight to cover legal costs. Heartland Harvest wasn't just a business anymore. It was a revolution. Ethan realized this wasn't a fight about money. This was about freedom, and they were winning. The case went to court, and Ethan took the stand. The supermarket lawyers mocked him. "You're just a farmer. What do you know about business?" Ethan leaned forward. "I know what it means to work honestly to feed people, not just make a profit, and I know America is waking up." The courtroom was silent, and then Trump's lawyers revealed damning evidence, emails proving that big corporations colluded to shut down small farmers. The judge slammed the gavel. Case dismissed. Ethan won. But what happened next was beyond anyone's imagination after the courtroom victory. Ethan received a mysterious invitation pack. "Pack your bags. Luke said we're going to Washington." Ethan arrived at the White House, where he was greeted by Trump himself. Cameras flashed as the president handed him a document. "This, Ethan, is a new Small Farmer Protection Act. Your fight inspired this." Ethan's eyes welled with tears. The bill would ensure fair pricing, protection against corporate bullying, and grants for small farms. Trump shook his hand. "You didn't just save your farm, you saved thousands." Ethan, once a struggling farmer, had become a symbol of hope back home. Heartland Harvest expanded nationwide. Farmers across America joined, creating a powerful farmer-led network. Ethan's land, once nearly lost, flourished. His crops sold out every season. Luke, inspired by his grandfather, pursued agricultural innovation. Small farms become more efficient. One day, Ethan stood by his fields, watching his community. They the impossible, but as he looked at his grandson, he smiled. "This isn't just our victory, Luke, it's just the beginning." Heartland Harvest wasn't just a business. It was a legacy. Years later, Ethan stood at a podium speaking to a new generation of farmers. "You'll hear people say small farms are dying, but that's a lie. We proved it." Luke, now leading Heartland Harvest, smiled from the crowd. The dream his grandfather fought for had become a reality. Ethan handed over the keys to the business, stepping back as the new generation took charge. His work was done, but the fight for fairness would continue forever. His work was done, but the fight for fairness would continue forever. Sitting on his porch, a handwritten note from Trump. "You showed America what real strength is. Farmers like you showed America what real strength is. Farmers like you, feeling deep gratitude not for fame or money but for something far greater." He had saved his farm, his people, and a way of life. He'd back in his chair, watching the sun set over the fields. Heartland Harvest was unstoppable now, and it all started with one man refusing to give up.